afternoon. It's noon. A quorum being present, the Historic Preservation Board of City of Denison meeting for October 4th, 2022 is called to order. Do we have any requests to speak cards? Thank you. Item A, Ms. Dow.
That's the minutes.
Yes, item A is minutes.
I make a motion that the minutes be approved with the change presented this morning.
Second.
Correct. And thank you for recognizing that. Agenda item A, sorry to move along, Donna. B, we're looking at 221 North Austin.
We have a frozen drink shop that's looking to move into there. It's a service station, a former service station. And they want to maintain all the existing windows and doors. There is one window that may need to be replaced. But they would also like to add a drive-up window and door in the back, and a pergola and a fence. And the decorative features include what I've determined that after I got to look at it, I feel like it probably should be public art because it's decorative features, and that's my determination of it, which would require a separate approval, one through the Historic Preservation and one through the Design Committee. But it would need to be considered separately and has not been looked at by the Design Committee yet. And the building and the business signage is proposed to be painted on the building. So that's the before of the building. And that's the layout of how it would operate. You can see the alley goes on the right side, and then there's no, wait, that's the street, and then the alley would be on the left side, and there's kind of what's almost like an alley behind it. It's the drive-through. But this is what it looks like, so you can see how the decorative features and the signage kind of all go together. So they've used a pale maize as their base color. They've also chosen a snowed-in color. So those are from our color chart. And they're not accent colors. They're base colors. And then the other colors are below it. Oops. And that's the side of the building and the back. And that's their signage. They've got shutters on this side of the building, and those would be actual shutters, and then planters underneath the window. And I will, the applicant's here, and I will let them speak.
Hi there, I'm Heather. Do you have any
Heather,
questions?
name and address, please.
Heather LaRosa, what is my address? 1840 Norwood Drive in Sherman. Do I need to answer questions, or?
Well, we met when I saw you at planning and zoning about this.
Oh,
so-
yes, okay. Yeah, I mean, really not much has changed. I know she did have a question about the secondary base color, the snowed in, and I got with the graphic design person, and basically that is on the garage doors. So the base colors, the majority of the colors are two that are come from your color palette, and then you've got obviously the others there. She did do another mock-up that is all from y'all's color palette, but it's just just really drab. I mean, there's no bright, it's not fun.
And that's not your
I mean, it would,
concept.
it just, I mean, if you see them side by side, like, it doesn't look that bad when you look at it on its own, then you see them side by side, and you're like, oh, no, this is way more fun. And that's what we're going for, is obviously a fun concept, so,
I have one question,
okay,
and it has to do with the signage.
okay,
I agree on the one hand that since it's been being painted on the wall, it's
Mhm.
essentially a mural.
mm-hmm,
If it is a mural, if we determine that's what it is, then it needs to go to the design committee of
Mhm.
Main Street. The question is, though, is it a mural or is it signage? And we had another case in the district that had to do with signage.
okay,
And because it was the logo of the business, it was a sign.
A sign.
Although it wasn't actually a mural, but I think there is the distinction. Is this the logo of your business?
it is, yes, ma'am. I think the part, when we talked that was about the public art, was what was actually on the garage doors.
Which is different than the logo?
Yes, if you look at the garage, see, it's got the little sloth hanging there,
Actually,
and,
oh,
yeah.
but he's
That-
here on the logo as well.
He is on the so that is the logo, and then this is just, him having fun.
And the ones in the center, she said, are like at a movie.
They're like movie posters. So these three here across the front, those are just gonna be like plexiglass frames with things, thank you.
Shadow boxes,
That can be
thank you.
changed out.
Oh,
Yeah, and then on the windows, what's on the windows, that'll be vinyl. So you've got a little, see how you've just got kind of some leaves there?
yes.
Yeah, so
yes.
that'll be vinyl, but everything else will be paint.
Thank you. I think that's a nice combination of
Okay.
visual elements. Once again, then there are two issues.
Mhm.
And to my mind, the signage painted on the building is your logo.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just my opinion. The other elements would definitely be ones that the design committee ought to look at
Okay.
specifically. And they also might want to weigh in on the logo versus is it a mural?
Okay.
Um,
If it was an electrical sign, would that be different than it being
yes.
painted there?
Yes, but
Yes.
we wouldn't permit a internally lit sign. And
I
I have
see,
no
okay.
objection to this. I think it may be just a issue of semantics, language.
Okay,
If it's your logo, then I don't call it public art, I call it a sign.
right.
So, what do you all think about that?
Looks like a logo to me.
Does look like a logo,
I agree.
yeah.
Well, I agree with what you said. I think since they've got to go to the other committee for approval,
I mean, they can look at it. What is
Yeah.
what is the
Exactly.
worst case scenario? They'd make us change it, or they just have to approve it separately?
Maybe it's
Okay.
separately. To my mind, the other requirements for a certificate of appropriateness are in place. Absent that,
Okay,
does anybody have any other questions? You've met the requirements for the escape lane and the parking. It's going to be vibrant. It's all in place, to my mind, except for that one component.
okay. So do we just need to go for approval for that then?
Right.
Gotcha, okay.
So, Donna, then what procedurally would you think is appropriate?
So I printed off our little easy guide
All right.
that I did before.
Flow charts,
Yeah.
love 'em.
She's already filled out the paperwork, so I think that we would just take that and have the design committee review it, and then this committee could also review it. They kind of look at different things, but I asked Betty, the building official, and that's irrelevant to her, so we either decide that it's art or that it's part of the sign. But she agreed that the slush part, would be building signage. So she's not gonna help us one way or the other.
great.
So, peers, look at the recommended motion and see what you want to do. Or do we have one?
We do, it doesn't specify the sign, the logo being signage. And could we
We incorporate that.
incorporate that in our motion, Donna? That we designate the
could you-
signage?
So I think what you asked is if you can just consider the picture of the monkey is what I consider it. But if you consider that with signage, and you could. So my thought was that it was separate from the signage. It was, and I had to look at it. That wasn't my first thought. I thought it was all a package. So it's not connected to the signage. Now, I guess if you wanted to paint slush on the garage doors.
On the garage door?
In any case, though, this board can't proceed until the design committee has looked at the package.
Well, you can and have before, but I don't know that you're prepared to do so in this case. So you can approve everything else. You can approve the base color, and you can approve the shutters and the fence and
And
everything.
it doesn't proceed. We wait for this, for the whole package to be together, and then we proceed.
So, I'm sorry, I'm
So
not sure.
in
I
order
wanna
for it to be, in order for the certificate of appropriateness to be sent on to council, the entire package has to be in place. And part of that package is the design committee weighing in.
I
So-
think we could separate the two. I think we could approve, and it goes straight to the building department for the next step. So I think we could separate the painting on the wall, with the exception of the signage. If you wanted to approve her signage, you could. And all the other stuff. She could get her base coat on, which is gonna take.
Proceed
some
with
time.
everything except perhaps what we talked about.
Yeah.
The garage doors.
Right, the garage doors,
Okay.
the new
Everything else would be
display,
considered
which would
signage.
in fact be a design art issue to be addressed first by the design committee and then brought to us for,
For approval again.
approval.
Okay.
So that would mean that we would approve the signage.
At this point?
The logo.
The logo would be approved as a sign.
So the logo is your signage. You didn't have any other signage
We are not.
in the
There's a
future?
sign pole there that we're actually going to take down.
Okay.
It's just a dead
So
pole.
this would be your only signage?
It's on all three sides,
Okay.
and there'll be lights. There are lights that are on the roof that sign down.
That's fine.
So
Okay.
they'll be illuminated that way from
Okay.
overhead lighting.
But we're also approving the, part of the signage is those 3 panels, right? We're calling that signage, or what are we
Well,
calling
I
that?
mean, like I said, they're more like, kind of like movie posters. It'll be something that kind of gets switched out if we have seasonal
That's not-
drinks or.
That's not signage.
Yeah.
No, I don't
Okay.
think. And that's what the design committee appropriately would weigh in
So
on.
they would look at the posters as well?
The concept would probably be adequate, but that's not our decision.
Okay, okay.
So do we have a motion to the effect of what we discussed?
I move that we approve the painting at 221 North Austin to include the base colors and the trim, and the logo signage, plus the other modifications that were listed, the fence and the pergola, and reserve the garage door painting and the plexiglass signage for the design committee.
Okay.
Excellent.
Second.
Thank you.
I was going to say a second. Call the
I'll second it.
question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Kirsten Solomon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is exterior of 226 West Main.
Once again, we have Mr. Don Day and Rhonda with us today, and they are coming for the, I want to say final approval of the rear facade that we didn't have before. And so I want to remind you that this is new construction. The back will have 3 doors and 5 windows, and that's the rendering of it. And that is what the doors will look like. And so I'm going to let them speak to it. Yeah, yeah.
My name is Don J. 110 East Louisiana Street, McKinney, Texas. On the back of this building, we will have 3 doors, one into each retail space and one to the upstairs space. Those doors will be solid metal doors for security purposes, and they will look like the picture that was just up there. There you go, the one on the left. The doors will look like that. It will be painted that color. And then the windows will be very similar to the windows in the middle. The fire code requires that windows on the second floor loft apartment have to be operable. They serve as a secondary fire exit. So all 5 of those will be the windows we showed you. It will be a red brick building. What you see is what we're bringing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And by reminder, we're only discussing the rear elevation. The elevation of the front has been approved. I would like to say, these are some of the most complete and detailed construction drawings we have ever seen. Thank you very much, even though we are only considering the back facade. So thank you for preparing such good materials. Questions, comments, concerns? Motion?
I would like to make a motion to approve the alley rendering for the exterior of 226 West Main.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. This is. Ms. Dow.
Okay, I wasn't sure you were ready.
Maybe I'm not. I was looking at this one that was written in hieroglyphics.
I know, there are some weird.
I'm sorry.
It
Ms.
was
Dow.
hard, it was hard for me to determine how much information to put in here.
Thank you.
As we've seen it before. There is, let's see, the applicant has removed and rebuilt the wall at 327 West Main, the rear wall.
We have some recusals.
Oh,
Bob Alexander
okay.
is leaving the dais. Melanie Truxell leaving the dais, recusing themselves from this item.
and they are requesting to add walls of steel frame glass, much as you see in the current picture, and they have provided a color rendering. The chair, Linda Anderson, and myself, and Mary Tate, the planning community development director, met with Mr. Hempkins, and we requested certain things. So we felt what we were going to consider hinged on the building, the building department's approval of the plans, but they don't give that until we make our decision. So because of the unique nature of it, they requested stamped engineer's drawings and got those, and the engineer required us, or said they needed a structural support to go across the top of the building, and I'll let Mr. Hempkins explain that. But we approve what's visual, and so we got, let's see, that on the right's what it looks like now. And that's what would be proposed. And this is a plan that Mr. Hempkins has. So we, in talking with Ms. Anderson, feel like we need more visuals of the lights that he's going to add to the back of it and the materials that will be used for both the railing and the awning. And so,
As well as the doors.
yes. And Mr. Hempkins has shared that he hasn't been able to obtain that from the architect. So anyway, I'll let him speak if he has anything to add, and Mary Tate might have additional information as well.
Kevin Hempkins, 3850 South Fannin Road, Denison. I appreciate your time and consideration here. It's been a little awkward and hard to work with a new architect for this project. So this is all I'm able to give you on the rendering now. And so I was, this is not an architect I'm familiar with. This is my first project with him. I may have not told you that before.
You didn't.
So,
Thank you.
so we were, just, it's been it's not been the easiest dynamic to work through. So anyway, but here you can see the materials are there. What's retroactively, I'm asking for approval, and also the awning and stair railing. And so the additions that I have to make structurally that Donna was referring to are just some small attachment points on the inside that would go from the steel to the actual brick, right where your cursor is. They'd be on the inside of the wall, and so yep. But other than that, the facade is complete. Other than for what we're asking for approval for, other than the awning and awning accessories and the stairs there. But due to the limitations in his software, we weren't able to add lighting like I was hoping to. So that's going to be something omitted from this discussion here.
I don't think that this board has adequate information to proceed. And would you like for me to share what I think is missing, or?
I would love to, if you don't mind.
We don't know from a certified engineer that what has happened already is structurally sound, and we don't have that from you today.
Yes. Is that not included in this?
Well, you have an engineer's set of plans, but you don't have an engineer's inspection report, and that's what you need to get.
Okay.
And, thank you. The responsibility of this group is primarily aesthetic. Our responsibility is to maintain the integrity of the historic district.
Yes, ma'am.
But there are certain things certain requirements that have to be met before we can proceed.
Yes, ma'am.
And those requirements have not been met. For instance, here's the application. It's really not completely filled out.
Okay.
I'm not sure which of these we have or don't have. I know we do not have a photograph of the door, and that's critical. I know we don't know more specifics in general. A computer-generated drawing does not provide the aesthetic subtleties that we need to proceed about aesthetic decisions, though they may be adequate for the building department. To my mind, this doesn't tell me aesthetically.
I understand.
And for instance, a drawing of a door that doesn't look appreciably unlike what was there before, described as single pane with a wood frame, there's zillions of permutations of that. So I believe that we're not ready to proceed. The city staff has recommended that it be denied because of lacking essentially appropriateness aesthetically, correct?
And structurally, I believe.
That was based on the initial, and it is, not appropriate for the building.
And I and my board respect the work of the staff in this building. And this case has gone on for a very long time, and many departments have been involved up to this point. We don't have resolution for a lot of the questions that have been asked as the process went on. Given that, I believe that the options are three.
I'm sorry?
The options today for action are three. We could make a recommendation to council to move it on. We could deny, or we can table. And I would welcome my fellow board members weighing in on those options.
I would respectfully ask you to table, considering you don't have the information you would like to have. And that's just a challenge that I'm gonna have to take on. So this could go on a little while.
Yes.
I get very little cooperation with the group of people here that are involved, but I promise you I'm gonna build something really nice back there that's gonna be perfect structurally and a very elegant rear entry for these girls.
As we discussed your intentions when we met in a smaller group.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
as you remember, in the smaller group, we said, Mr. Hempkins, it's not our desire that you take it back to what it looked like initially.
No, ma'am.
And we know that in the end, a quality product will be delivered and the questions and concerns will be addressed.
Yes, ma'am.
And we respect you for that, and thank you for respecting us by way of noting that there's really no further to go but table. And while that process is going on, you know that you have access to all of the relevant departments as far as what needs to happen next before you're prepared to come forward. One essential question that must be addressed is if the rear facade was part of the initial proposal. And we talked about that in the meeting too. So those are things that we're not prepared to move on because we don't have enough information, and you respect that, and thank you.
I honestly don't think I have that information either.
Thank you. And I get, how do we want to do about setting a timeline as we did when we met?
Yes.
What shall we do about that?
Do you think you can get it in
Well,
2
yeah.
weeks till the next meeting?
Architectural is just the biggest wild card I've ever dealt with in my, so anyway, the engineering, I can get him up here in a couple of days to sign off on that. But as far as a rendering like Mr. Day presented and like what you're gonna be expecting, I can't tell you. I mean, I would be at square one hiring another architect around the building owner. So it's just an awkward deal that I have to
I
kind of
understand.
tippy-toe around.
I understand.
Let me ask a question. Like, this is something that Mr. Day gave us.
That's the door.
Is that the door you want
That's
to
the door, it's
use?
back, yeah.
May I see it?
So this
We all
is-
want to see it.
This is something that Mr. Day gave us and
Mhm, for
presented
that.
when I asked him for the same thing.
Okay.
Do y'all think that if Mr. Hempkins gave us pictures of the things that he's going, the materials he's going to be used?
Well, then the decision would be on our part, whether it aesthetically blends with what is intended to be left in place. That's an
But that would,
That's an
that
aesthetic
would be good.
decision,
Would-
and we still need essentially the questions about structural. We can't recommend something that is not structurally sound, even though we might pass that subjective aesthetic judgment. It would be irresponsible of us because all of this would not have been addressed.
Understood.
Um,
Would there be any of the elements that the future elements, would there be any questions I could answer in regards to those that I wouldn't have a photo of? So I'll be able to obviously get you a photo of the things that are physically here, but, in the, you know, could I answer anything to?
Is that an awning?
That's
that-
a small awning would extend the width of
The
the
porch.
stair riser, which is still yet to be determined. I think.
You don't have the depth and all that yet?
No, we've not come to terms on the,
It
So
will be
that's
determined
something
how
that they will
much,
need. They'll
how
need
much is
the
actually allowed.
width and depth and a
there's a lot of
Right.
chicken and the egg factors here because no one's got back with me on a depth that's allowed away from the building for the protrusions.
Is
So
that
I
correct?
think it's drawn at
Excuse- whoa,
48.
whoa.
It might
Do we know how far the awning and the porch can extend?
Extend into the right of way, and that was emailed to you.
So extended into the right of way, to my knowledge, the right of way is the whole alley. So it can't be in the alley.
Right, and you've received
So-
that information.
So
And another thing that's happened before with us is when we've discussed awnings, and you know there are lots of awnings and new ones coming along, folks have said to us, what we propose is you could go look at this building and see what this is going to look like. At least we might require that. We talked about when we met, your having an awning that would retain the sort of clear story effective windows above the awning and aesthetically.
it sounds like that's not possible. It would be protruding into the right of way, I think, right? One inch off of that building would be into the right of way. So you're not gonna get any lighting, you're not getting an awning, and I don't know how you're getting a set of stairs in there.
You're going to ask for permission from the right-of-way manager. That's what you do, that's what everyone on Main Street does and in the alley, because it is right-of-way, and we have a Main Street right-of-way manager, which is our public works director.
There we go.
So there's,
Solutions happening already.
exactly, and haven't we been trying to get there
Yes,
for a
ma'am.
while?
Yes, ma'am. I wasn't aware of a right-of-way director, though.
No,
That's a new
awesome,
position.
isn't it?
All
So,
right.
once again, staff can direct you to the appropriate persons
I'm
to
sure.
answer the questions that you need before you are prepared to come back to us for making those aesthetic judgments. And with staff, you may determine what is a schedule that can be met. Ms. Tate, what about scheduling?
If I may address.
Please.
At this point in time, we have provided Mr. Hempkins and Mr. Shires with two different deadlines. We met with Mr. Hempkins on September 14th. Donna, myself, and Chairwoman Anderson provided a schedule so that we were prepared for today. I then met with Mr. Shires, the property owner, on Friday, September 23rd, and outlined exactly what was provided to Mr. Hempkins the previous week. We outlined 4 items that needed to take place, including what was to be brought to this meeting. We asked for those things to be provided to us in a timely manner, which was September 28th, so that the board had ample time to review before today's meeting. Ms. Dow followed up. Mr. Hempkins did provide some things, and then Ms. Dow followed up again last week. So at this point in time, providing deadlines, they're not being met. So to answer that question of how long or to set a deadline, that would, I believe, need to come from you. We are more than happy to work with everyone. That's what we do. That is our job. But I can't enforce a deadline to be met. And so that, I believe, will have to come from you. And then action, determining whether those deadlines have been met, will, I think, be determined by whether you receive what you need.
I also would believe, perhaps, Mr. Hempkins, that you might spend a couple of days or whatever it might take for you to feel like all these things can be assembled by X date. And I don't think it's fair to say to you, we want it right now, because obviously you're working with some difficulties as far as the architect, engineer, whatever, and we can't predict how long it's going to take you to resolve those issues. Do you agree?
I agree.
And
Stay in touch on the matter and follow up with you weekly or daily even.
I don't need weekly or daily, we need a day.
Well,
And I know you can't determine that right now, but I'm prepared to give you the flexibility to sort of scout around with the relevant entities about when those requirements can be met. And of course, every member of the staff involved in this process, including the folks you need to deal with the alley, are in place and want to help you. And as we discussed and agreed upon, a quality product will evolve because the opportunity is there to do a really first-class job, first alley improvement, significantly in the 300 block. And we agreed at the meeting that that is the goal that everyone has.
Yes, ma'am.
But we don't have information that is sufficient for you to proceed or for any further decisions to be made.
Yes, ma'am, I agree.
So if you want to interact with Donna about a reasonable deadline, and Donna can share with the relevant staff departments how they might mesh into it, and when all of that is in place, then we'll know the appropriate date to proceed.
That sounds great. I can make a few calls and report back to Donna this
Perfect.
afternoon or tomorrow.
And
Great.
is that suitable? Okay,
Great.
thank you.
I appreciate
Do we
you guys.
not need to
Thank
make a
We do
motion
need a motion.
to table it?
Yes, I have one quick question. Do we need to make the requirements a part of the record that we're asking for, the items that we're asking for? Should we make those a part of the record?
Would you like them? Okay, do you want to start taking down?
I think if I know them all from the conversation, I make a motion that we table the request for the improvements on the rear wall at 327 West Main in order to obtain the following information. A, we need a structural engineer's report on the viability of the improvements that have been made, and then what improvements might need to be made in order to maintain its integrity. We need photographs and information on the proposed door and the proposed lighting and the railing for the stairwell that's going to the back door. And that right-of-way also needs to be addressed.
Awning.
The awning, and the structural engineer should be able to comment on that too. not only the need for it, but also what it's going to, what the appearance will be and the materials it'll be made from. And what's number 4?
There's a section on page 2 that says entrances. Only one box is checked, entrance, repair, replacement. That's kind of an understatement.
I'm sorry, Ms. Anderson, the building owner filled this out.
I'm just saying, this is clearly absent.
Yes, ma'am.
So that would be a box that would, a lot of attention should be paid to. Is that
What
it?
else do we want to add?
And is all of that reflected? Do we have all those necessary words in there?
Awesome. I'm not sure how to finish that up, but tabling contingent on the completion of those items,
These met
the
requirements.
accumulation of those items.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, Donna.
you.
Thank
All
you,
of you.
board.
Thank you. Okay.
I mean, I know that's like, not necessarily the rules, but I think it would be prudent. Thank you all.
There's more. Did you- We're not
Thank you, Kirsten.
Did you adjourn us? Yes.
We'll go for it.
Okay, so one that I approved in office was the Save Wind Brewery came to me and asked for the repainting of the facade trim. And so I read very carefully the ordinance, and it allowed me to do that. They wanted to paint the same color, and so they were going to match it at Sherwin-Williams. And they felt like it was Valspar. I don't know how you say that. I'm sure there's some weird pronunciation of it. Spruce. And so I granted them approval. And
Dave Limpidi, FYI, he called me at 6 o'clock at night, the night before he called you, and said, "We want to paint it tomorrow morning."
yeah,
I
everybody
said,
does.
"There's possibly a chance. Call Donna in the morning, and I think she could possibly, if you're doing the same color, she might be able to approve it."
So,
And the painting, if we want to paint it in the morning, is sometimes an issue.
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you before we got to that. And obviously what happened was that staff has the responsibility and ability to make those kind of decisions without our weighing in on them. So thank you. Thank you. So you don't need a motion on that, just gratitude, right?
No, you don't need gratitude. I just wanted to share.
Share. Why am I here? I don't know.
Structural support.
Yeah, exactly. I move that the meeting be adjourned.
Second.
Second.